Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast, the show that brings you the latest insights, thought leadership, and stories from across the global mining industry. In today's episode, we've got Gilbert Clark, who's the CEO of Meridian Mining, a mineral exploration and development company focused on unlocking high-value copper, gold, silver, and other metal resources in Brazil. Meridian's flagship asset is the advanced Cabaçal Volcanogenic Massive Sulphide project in Mato Grosso. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Almost got that.
We'll discuss Meridian's recent resource milestones and how the company's positioned itself for execution and growth. We're going to speak about update on Brazil's mining industry and what the outlook could look like for the company as it heads towards a meaningful copper gold producer in the critical global market. So, Gilbert, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks, Rob. Look, I'm very happy to be here today and just bringing to another greater audience what we're doing in Brazil.
Yes, certainly. So as we always start these podcasts off, just wondering if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your career, about your background, how you got into the industry and how your career has developed over the years.
I'm actually from a bit of a mining family, second generation Australian mining family. There were 4 geologists and 1 mining engineer in my family. I have my son's a geo and my nephew's a geo. So we're very much a mining focused family. I actually worked in the Eastern Goldfields of West Australia back in the mid to late 1990s. I then moved across to Europe with my wife. She's French. I got involved with oil and gas for a while I developed all the NGOs that hated the person who created shower gas in Europe. That was me. And then I joined in 2008. I joined a private equity firm, and I stayed with them until 2020. Sat on public boards, traveled internationally. I've just seen about every mineral province in the world. And then in 2018, I became involved in Meridian. And I left the fund in 2020, and ever since then, I've been solely focused on developing the Cabaçal copper gold silver belt in Mato Grosso.
Great. Just want to take you back. You mentioned obviously you was 3 or 4 generations of mining. Did you felt pressured to obviously come into the mining industry because of the family background?
No, not at all. I actually, I liked being outside. I liked the country of Australia. I haven't lived in a capital city since 1995, I think. So, I got seconded to Montreal for 3 years. That was very nice. But no, look, it's a wonderful industry. It's a constructive industry. I think today 15% of the world's world's industries are based around natural resources. So we're just a fundamental building block of everyone's daily going about their business. It is mining.
Yeah. And you mentioned obviously your son's in the industry now. How easy was it for him to choose mining as an industry? And the reason why I asked that question, we do get a variety of different people listening to these episodes, from obviously more experienced people right through to obviously graduates entering our industry. So again, just wondered how he got involved. Was it because of yourself, or was it just naturally he was interested in the industry?
Oh, I think he's going to get a hard time. So he just started a new job in Western Australia. So sorry about this. I don't know. He found the career himself. I said that it's a very rewarding career. You can stay in the production, exploration, development. You can branch out into banking. There's a whole raft of career development that goes with being in the mining industry. But yeah, I think with people who are looking for a great career, you cannot fault mining. And I think when, United Kingdom has still got, some great mining schools, some great postgraduate studies. And then you can go to Australia, Canada, America, Brazil. Brazil has a very dynamic mining industry. So it really is, if you're choosing a career, I can't fault it. It's well remunerated. It can be wildly fluctuating at times, but it is a very long-term decision.
Yeah. So moving on, just wonder if you can give us a snapshot of Meridian Mining.
Okay, so Meridian Mining's been listed since about 2016. It had a predecessor before then. It was focusing on, prior to my involvement, on manganese in Brazil, and I came down in 2018 to do a restructure. It took me 2 years to fix it, and during that time, we probably did one of the only capital restructures that, on the other side of that restructure, the minority shareholders actually came out earning 25% more of the company than they owned at the time. So then we set about saying, what are we going to focus? And I'd already conveyed to the market, look, we're not doing manganese. We're going to focus on copper and gold. This is in 2019, because it was an absolute no-brainer where these commodities are going to go. And then we did the restructure, and literally the month after, we were saying, okay, look, let's find a new project. And I got a flyer. It just said Cabaçal, it's opportunity. And I just stopped everything. I said, hey, guys, let's just break here, because when we look at today's mining industry, to be honest, it's only exists as it is today by the investment of the oil and gas industry in 1970s, 1980s. BP Minerals, every major oil company had a mineral division. And BP Minerals found this very prospective copper gold belt in the 1980s. And then they sold the entire portfolio to Rio Tinto in 89. It was too small for Rio Tinto, so they just shut it down. So effectively, this very productive field identified by a major was shut down for 30 years, not for a commercial reason, but for a corporate decision. And then we came along, we bought it off a small private co in Brazil. And for me, as a pretty experienced, well, I'd say reasonably experienced private equity investor in the natural resources, for me, my fundamental concern is risk. If I'm going to deploy capital, my shareholders' money, do I risk it? And what was presented to me with Cabaçal was such a low risk opportunity to grow into a mid-tier mining company. We stopped everything. We focused. We did the deal. We already had that executive team in Brazil, that technical team to execute. And ever since then, we've just powered on. And since we first acquired the project to today, our focus is build the mine.
Yeah. Obviously, you mentioned about risk and de-risking. What was, I suppose, significant about the actual project and the asset that made you want to move forward because you de-risked it so much?
Well, the original Cabaçal mine was a small underground mine, and they had 4 years reduction, and they understood the geology. So straight away, I had no geological risk. I knew what the ore body was going to be, and because we knew the chief geologist and the senior underground geologist from back in the 80s, we had like coal face knowledge. And then the next phase is, metallurgical risk. Can you extract your metals? We had all the data from their test work, and they actually did test work and production at much lower grades, open pit grades. So I looked at this near surface underground mine and just said, this is an obvious open pit development scenario. So that's your second risk. And then what about permit risk? So when we were doing our study in July 2020, where we're going to look to invest in Brazil, what I did is I said, look, there are parts of Brazil which are NGO sensitive, or they don't even they're very dry climates, or there's operational risk. We're not going there. We're not going to go next to sort of indigenous parts or anything like that. So we carved out all that sort of development risk. And we came to a couple of states we thought were really good to work in. Rondônia's one, Mato Grosso, and Cabaçal's in Mato Grosso. So that was a fantastic for us. And then permits. So all of the investors says, look, is this a good state? Can you get stuff permitted? Can you build a mine? In the eyes of the authorities in Mato Grosso, this is a brownfields restart. That's the best thing you want to have. And our local communities, they remember when the mines were in production, and they see it as a period of prosperity. So we had community support, we had regional government support, and all these things, you look at that, these are sort of in every aspect of a mining investment, each one of these risks is a red flag. If there's one, you don't deploy your money because it's just going to get blown. But in this one scenario, it was perfect for us.
Obviously, Brazil is an established mining jurisdiction, but there's obviously still geopolitical and logistic considerations. How do you see Meridian's role in building, obviously, a reliable, responsible copper and gold project in the country?
Look, that's for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. If you're in the Amazon jungle looking to develop a mine, good luck to you. NGO risk, logistics, infrastructure. The time frame for those type of projects is outside the time frame of our investments. With Mato Grosso and the Cabaçal project, we inherited legacy infrastructure, all-weather road, concrete bridges, power easements permitted to site. So then that is not there. That we don't have to build that. So that's very prospective for us. And then when we look at the state of Mato Grosso, they have two operating mining centres. One run by a really good company, two very good companies, Ero Copper and Aura Minerals. They've got active operations in Mato Grosso. And at the same time, for logistics, we have Mato Grosso is an exporting state internationally for agricultural products. So when you fly into Mato Grosso, you see trucks going to port. And although it's 2,400 kilometres to the port, we're going to export the concentrates. Because there's so much agriculture, so much logistics, the cost to export is it's pennies in the dollar compared to the concentrate.
Recently, Meridian announced an updated resource and maiden resource at Santa Helena Central, as well as obviously the expansion of mineral rights. What do these milestones really mean for the company strategically?
It's really interesting. So with the Cabaçal resource update, when we published the pre-feasibility study, the PFS, even before that, we identified improvements in the geological model that would result in increased tonnages, increased metal contents. And so we raised the money and we executed that program. And the result of that we increased the resource grade. And this is all part of the ongoing work streams that will lead to the completion of the definitive feasibility study. And from that work that we did, we've increased the resource of gold, the contained metal, by 39%, copper by 14%, and for silver, that's 19%. And I give that a quantum. I think we added approximately 350,000 ounces of gold into the Cabaçal resource. But with volcanic massive sulphide belts, that's just not one pod. You have multiple occurrences. They're a very well-known system throughout the world. And then we had a second deposit that was identified back in the 80s, partially exploited in the mid-2000s, called Santa Helena, and that's quite a big system. So we're focused on the central part called Santa Helena Central. We've published our maiden resource on that. So that's given us the opportunity not just to have one mining centre and processing centre, where satellite deposits, potentially future satellite deposits, can be trucked in for processing. We've now got one 10 kilometres to the southeast that can be used as the southeast central hub. And in the future, if we keep growing the resources down there and convert them to reserves and then to mining operations, that will be the second hub. So this is really, this is not new. This is an absolute carbon copy of every VMS belt in the world. Multiple hubs, multiple producing mines. But the great thing about VMS deposits, unlike, say, a porphyry that requires billions and billions and billions of dollars of capex to build, our capital is only circa 258 million USD, and that's very easily accomplished to build.
How is Meridian preparing for the scale of execution obviously required? If we obviously look from engineering, procurement, construction, through to obviously operating readiness.
Uh, we inherit when we started the program, we had a history of mining in Rondonia, the neighbouring northern state. So we already had the internal administrative capacity to do this, and we've expanded out from it. But when you do these projects, these future mine builds, the best analogy I can give is you've got a giant elephant and it's got to walk that way. Okay, you've made a decision, you've deployed your capital, so you've got to make sure that where that elephant's going to eventually stop is where you want to be. Now, we have in the last 6 months expanded up our engineering team into Brazil. Now there are 8 people. It's just not only the engineers, the electromechanical engineers, the civil engineers. It also includes the experienced people in the back office who have to process all the documentation, track the invoices, procurement, contracts. It's just not a mining engineer or a civil engineer. It's also the importance of back office experience. And we've always identified that, and we've been growing that as we go along.
Copper is obviously increasingly viewed as a critical metal for electrification and obviously the energy transition. How do you think about the long-term copper demand and where Meridian's projects fit into the global picture?
We produce a copper concentrate that is incredibly clean. So we're not going to produce the vast volumes of concentrate as a giant porphyry, but we produce a copper concentrate that the smelters like, so that they can buy our concentrate at a very good price. But then you get dirty, lower grade concentrates that have pollutants, and they take our concentrate and they mix it with these inferior ones, and they have a product that they can safely smelt. So that's where we sit in. We are going to be the go-to blending concentrate for the probably 1 or 2 decades initially to come. In respect to the copper market, I'm very bullish on that. I think in the last couple of years, we've seen Cobre Panama came offline. We've seen problems with the startup of QB2. It may not achieve production forecast. Tech's a very good company. We've seen decreasing concentrates coming out of Chile and Peru and with various qualities. The copper market going forward is very good. How I see the supply demand scenario, it's positive for our project. And on top of that, the great thing about Cabaçal is where by potential revenue, we're 56% gold and 44 copper. So if gold comes up and copper goes up, well, we're good. If copper comes off and gold goes up, well, we're still good. And I really encourage the listeners to go to our presentation and look at our sensitivity table, because the project has such positive economic attributes that we don't need extremely high commodity prices to be profitable. We're profitable at low commodity prices. So as the commodity prices increases, all that means is the long-term benefit to our shareholders increases.
We spoke about obviously risk. Risk management is a major topic in mine development. What are some of the biggest technical or operational risks at this stage, and how does Meridian work to reduce them as obviously the project advances?
Well, I have a different perspective on risk to most people, because I look at the global activity of a mine. But there's only one fundamental risk to the mining industry, to this project, and in general, that's across the board of all mining companies, and that's generational change. There is a deficit of skilled engineers, geologists, metallurgists, environmental engineers in the mining industry. So that human capital, the changing demographics in mining, that's what keeps me up at night. So we've actually got an agreement with the University of Cuiabá. We take their students. We've got the best students. We train them. We also have a very good incentive scheme for our employees. And so what's really important is that you provide a safe and a beneficial working environment, and that's something we've done very well. In aspects to the technical, to the geology, look, we mitigated those in the PEA. back in 2003. We identified them, and it was nothing different to what we reviewed back in 2020. So, of course, there's execution risk, mobilization of equipment. These are procedures. My greatest concern, longer term, short term, we prepared in advance for the short term. My long-term concern that keeps me up at night is demographics.
Yeah. And I suppose following on from that, and myself being a recruiter, I fully agree with you. But if you look at obviously Brazil and their, I suppose their educational system and obviously the skills within country, I just wonder if you can comment on that. Is there a skill shortage within Brazil? Are they addressing that problem? Is there a lot of older generation leaving the industry and not enough coming through, as I see globally? I just wonder if you can comment on that within the framework of Brazil.
Actually, the Brazilians have a really good technical and university system, and also a very good postgraduate system. And that's, mining in the West has been denigrated for decades. Like you said, how do you turn on your lights at night? Well, there's electricity going up copper wires. People have forgotten about this in the West. But no, we have a very good base of people. And what my concern in demographics is, I've got to extract as much knowledge from the sort of the 45 to 50-year-old guys and transfer that into the 20-year-old men and women as they come into the industry, and make sure they're educated. One of the things we are very keen on, and look, if you go to site, it's amazing, is safety. We've installed, that's the only thing that I would consider that I'm trying to change in respect to the Brazilian mining industry. We are very, very zero policy on deviation from safety. We just so focused on that. If anything, you can ask my team in Brazil, whenever I see them, I say there's a fundamental rule in mining. You go to work with 10 fingers and 10 toes, and you go home at night with 10 fingers and 10 toes.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously the older generation transferring their knowledge to the younger generation. Do you have any programs in place, or are you looking to implement any kind of programs to make that happen, where the older generation are transferring their knowledge? Or is it just being hands-on on the job, and the older generation just teaching and mentoring those the younger generation as they come through?
We've got a really good advisory board in Brazil, and there's a number of gentlemen there. Gilson, the old chief geo for Cabaçal back in the 1980s, 1990s. Rocky Osborne, John Waghorn, Alfonso. And that's really good, because there's some really experienced guys, and we've brought them onto site a couple of times now to talk with the younger guys to see, what we're doing, what you're thinking. At the same time, we really focus on communication. If there's a question, we encourage our team to ask these things. And we have, like I said, we have postgraduates, we have really good geos in their late 20s, early 30s. We've got some more experienced middle management of 45s, 50s. So we try to keep that demographic age growth in place. So that's where I come from, this stepwise fashion of knowledge. Programs, we always encourage the people to do extracurricular activities at studies. It is actually very noticeable how keen the Brazilians are to do further education. That's been a really positive attribute. One of our field technicians back in Rondônia, he was doing a legal degree, and he completed his legal degree. I then moved into the legal department as a junior guy. He's now doing additional postgraduate studies in mining law. So that type of, do it, keep doing. We'll support you. We'll increase your pay as you increase your skills. So I think management that sort of takes their team for granted. You just have too much turnover. You really want to focus on growing, but also allowing people to actually take decisions. That's a key one. If they're going to go into a management position, give them the confidence and the guidance to make independent decisions, because often that's one of the most beneficial way to grow a company.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. Just wondering if you can just give us an update on the Brazilian mining industry as a whole, what's been happening, say, in the last sort of 6 months, that you can share, obviously, with our audience who are from all over the world.
Okay, look, I'll give you. Look, I'm going to get. This is a ballpark number. A couple of years ago, Brazil exported, I think, $45 billion dollars US worth of iron ore. I think that's by Vale, very efficient, or globally, including Vale. I think at the same time they exported about $41 billion dollars worth of soybean. So the great thing about the Brazilian industry and economy, unlike certain countries where mining is only it's a one-trick pony cash cow for the government. Brazil is just absolutely dominates South America by having multiple economic activity. The mining industry is very good. It benefits from very cheap hydroelectricity, logistics. A lot of equipment's made in Brazil. Like I said, when we looked at this project, when I looked at Brazil, I very quickly cottoned on that I'm not going to introduce Australian mining techniques. I'm not going to transfer European or Canadian or American, because this industry is fantastically efficient. They're incredibly, their capex is, there's a presentation in the spreadsheet. You can see that, 248 million USD for capex is right in the middle per ton of mill throughput. It's fantastic. Now, the education is very good, and there is a political will, not only at the federal level, at the state level, but also at the local level, that there is prosperity with mining. Not just, gosh, I don't know, truck drivers or excavator drivers, but then it's the flow on of the community benefits, the local shops benefit. When you go into a Brazilian country town, you'll see 60, 70 little shops. It's a great community spirit, and we bring wealth to the community.
Yeah. And lastly, looking ahead over the sort of next 12 to 24 months, what are some of the key milestones investors and the market should watch out for?
Well, let's just look at, we've got actually sort of a dual strategy, I guess. One is the development of Cabaçal through to production in the next 2 years. That really focus on that. We want to get the installation license submitted and approved. We want to get the definitive feasibility study completed and published in time. At the same time, we'll get our project finance finished, and we'll go to final investment decision. This year, we want to get a lot of that done. Now, we also want to initiate some of the civil works this year. And that's important. And also at the same time, there'll be a program where we'll be bringing in an industrial body from Mato Grosso to help start training up the local community who want to work in mining. That's very important for us. And then at the same time, we've got an exploration resource development program. We did a very successful capital raise last year. We're well funded. And from that, it's almost a 5-fold increase in expenditure on exploration resource development. So this is the things that we're going to do, bring exploration results in line. So with St. Helena and with Cabaçal and St. Helena, we've got, I think, circa 75 million tonnes now of resources. So we're looking already at the potential for multi-decade production. And at the same time, we're going to be feeding into this system, hopefully, the exploration success and future resources. And this is absolutely, again, the recipe of any VMS belt in the world. They go for decades. The Flin Flon in Canada has gone for over 100 years now. They're very productive fields.
Great. Gilbert, really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing your story, informing us about Meridian Mining, and obviously good luck with the restart of the mine. Obviously, we're still a little bit off that, but maybe you can come back on next year and give us an update on how the project's going.
Absolutely, Rob. Look, we're listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange main board. Our ticker's MNO. If anyone's got any inquiries, look, contact us at info@meridianmining.co. It comes to me. I'll always reply to an inquiry. And Rob, thank you for your time today.
No worries. And I was just going to ask also, what social media platform channels are you on so people can
the company's
can get in
on
contact?
LinkedIn and Twitter.
Yeah. No worries. We include those in the show notes for easy access. So all the best for the year, and hopefully you can come on next year and give us an update.
Will do. Thanks again, Rob.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. We want to educate the global mining industry, but maybe also people outside of our industry also. So appreciate your continued support in sharing these episodes far and wide. And until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.